I'm gonna get right to it. Like sometimes I get so worried about like the performance part of this, like making sure that I don't look silly up here. I'm not worrying about that tonight. Tonight is a really, I've been enjoying this sermon series. Antoine hit it up last week, and I was able to listen to the video and all that on the website. How many of you guys know that you can like listen to the sermons and all that on the websites? That can totally be done. So I checked it out, hit up. There was no heresy last week. Antoine did it right. But we're focusing on chains, and in the sermon series called Chains, let me explain to this. Antoine, he helps grow me and getting my sermon series kind of planned and all that. Usually, I mean, when Elevate first started, it was like a week-by-week thing. It was like Wednesday morning, sometimes Thursday morning. I'm like, okay, we kind of got to find something where let's start with Jesus kind of thing. And he's been growing me to kind of get, a sermon series, like planning out and having a vision with Elevate. It's been really good. And really, when looking at just why we call this chains, it's just what is holding us back. When I see this group of people right here, I see like 5 times more people than were here in the beginning of worship. That's just awesome, by the way. It was like 6 people. I'm like, all right, we'll go with 6 people. But yeah, you guys came in. But besides that, like, I see huge potential. There is such potential with young adults in this room, in the church. There is such potential. But what can happen, there are these things that Satan has before us. There's things of the world. There are things of ourselves, these chains that hold us back. So Antoine walked with us the first week, and it was about fear, right? So I want to give an illustration, but imagine yourself, and just hold on with me for a second. As you're a child, this is your life stages or your life pattern. I want you to get this. This is the point that we're at. I always, for some reason, I use this line. So this is where we're at. You got me? Right there. This is for old people. We're not worried about these people over here. We got a ways before that. This is us. But back here when we're childs, right? When we're children, how much freedom, that's a weird question. No one's going to answer that. So there is not much freedom as a child. You following me? Like, you can't even stay home by yourself because you have to have a babysitter. There's regulations, there's rules. You got to be in before bed at 8 o'clock, and you can't have snacks before. That sounds like my college, but that is for children and all that. But like, there's regulations that we have. There's like guidelines, right? And then you get to like the school time, and it's middle school and high school, and you have to go to school. You have to be in your classes. And then after that, there's extracurriculars. There's like, can I tell you, like, my high school, it was all about like classes. It was all about sports. It was all about like, just, there wasn't downtime because there was always something to do for a grade or an extracurricular. Still, there's like a lot of chains in my life, but they're like teaching chains, right? Being guided and mentored, but restrained in that sense. And then you come off to college, and there's kind of two ways that we go here, right? Some people go to college, and like me, I went all in, like 18 credits, 20 credits a semester, tried to do the sports, the school, and the little bit of work, but it was more full-time student. And again, chains completely on me, right? Making sure I'm getting all these things done. Or you're another person, and you go and you're like, you know what, I'm going to get some work going, and I'm going to do partial school, or you're doing all work and no school, something like that. But here at this point, this transition in our lives, what I'm trying to say is, all of a sudden there is a lot of freedom that you did not have before, right? Before, it was always bedtimes. It was like, may I have a cookie? Now I have a cookie when I want to, and that, like, it catches up to us because there's not as many rules, right? All of a sudden, we're introduced to these freedoms. We have these choices that we make. And as we hit the first week, as we're coming into our adult life, there's choices now of where I want to live, what I want to do, what I want to complete with my life. There are choices, there are freedoms. And here are chains that are holding us back in our lives. And as the first week, so you got me with Antoine, right? There are all this, we come to this point from our school, from our teaching, our training, and all that, and we come here and we have these freedoms, but we are restrained and we are held back because of fear. The fear of the unknown, right? The fear of failure. And as Antoine was saying, as we have a true fear of who God is, and we see what God has done for us, like, there is this, He sets us free from this fear so we can be released from these chains. Does that make sense? Another set of chains I want to hold here is you have all of this freedom all of a sudden. So you're done with the elementary, the middle school, high school, college. All of a sudden you have freedoms. It is your life. And we come to this thing called apathy, because I can almost understand. I can almost recognize a point of, I've been set free and now I don't just want to be chained up for these things. So there's almost this sense of aloofness because you're let off from these chains to live this life, but what does this life look like? And the second chain that we were talking about is apathy. Apathy and how it can be a chain, how it can be a hold, how it can be a restraint on our lives. So going right to it, let's just look at the definition because that's what we do here. The definition of apathy, it's really just kind of boring here, but it's the lack of interest, enthusiasm, or concern, right? It's just the apathetic kind of thing. Because that was a little boring, let's go to some quotes that I have here, some people that have some quotes. Ready? And this is really profound. It hits me right off the bat. The opposite of love is not hate. It's indifference. The opposite of art, it's not ugliness. It's indifference. The opposite of faith is not heresy. It's indifference. And the opposite of life is not death. It's indifference. Continue the next one. Saying here that it against these things and success that we want to push to, it's not always the opposite. It's just not doing anything here. Again, by Richard Yates. I love this because this is a dude that died a bit ago, but he's talking like it's us right now. He says it's a disease. Nobody thinks or feels or cares anymore. Nobody gets excited or believes in anything except their own comfortable little mediocrity. And then Einstein, we also have a quote from him. And what he says here, the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. Can I tell you from these points and looking at it, apathy is a serious disease. It is this cancer that has come about us, especially, how many of you guys feel that apathy is a big thing in young adults? You actually raised your hand. See, yeah, I thought I was going to go, you see what I was going to do there? But apathy, a huge thing within our age group. Like, two things I have from it. I kind of still play video games every once in a while. Like, I'm not like, I was like the generation before you guys, like SOCOM 2 kind of stuff. The first Call of Duty and zombies. Now there's like 27 of them and I can't quite keep up, right? But like, I'm playing video games and all the time I play video games with my friends because they're back in Pennsylvania. We can put our headset on and it's like we're friends still, right? You know what I'm saying? Anyone still have friends like that? Got a couple. So I'm playing video games and I defeat someone. We won't say kill someone, but we defeat someone, right? And as we defeat someone, I just get on my headset like someone's like, "You're a tryhard," and I'm like, has anyone heard that term before? Like, that's new to me. I'm sorry. You're a tryhard, and I'm like, what did I do? He's like, well, you defeated me. I'm like, isn't that the point? Yeah, but you're a tryhard. It's all infused in like where we go, these tryhards, these people that care, these people that want to make a difference, they're weird. Anyone else hearing me on this? If we look at our schools, right before, it used to be the jocks. It used to be the cheerleaders that were like these people. Now it's like anyone who cares about something is weird and different and wrong. And it's like, it's those people who just don't care. They're the ones that are leading the way in our generation nowadays. It's a huge problem. I mean, even, it's so funny. Like, I play basketball. I go down to Fitness Connection and I play basketball with some guys and they're like 6'5". They're way taller than me, way more athletic than me. They can have even a better shot than me, but they play like they don't care. And it's like, I'll get a couple points on them and then they'll try real hard, but when they'll try hard. But when they realize that they can't, or it's maybe too late, or you know what, I might not win, it's just all of a sudden apathetic. If I just step back and just be apathetic about it, maybe then it won't put such shame to me, right? I feel like it almost is tying into fear. Apathy, there are many causes for apathy. One of them straight up is fear. Because this is what it comes to, what if I care? What if I actually want to try? What if I actually put my whole effort towards something and I come up short? There's that fear, right? So how do you defeat that fear? It's just, I don't try at all. If I don't try at all, then there's no indifference. It doesn't matter. But where is your life going when it's just, you're a tryhard, or just whatever, just let it go? We got some verses up here showing what the Bible says before we get into the real passage. But these are just kind of peppering. I'm just peppering you with some verses here that talk about it. It says, so because you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth. That's Revelation 3:16. I love that verse, how he says it. It's like, because you are lukewarm. neither hot nor cold. Like even God at this point is saying, you know what? Like, you got those rock people, whatever, like going out. That's a terrible. I just sounded like 1980 or something like that. Let's try this again. I'm thinking Kurt Cobain in my head, right? You ready for this? You have Kurt Cobain, and God is saying, you at least have this dude who went all out to all extremes into some way and dove way over a cliff that resulted in a suicidal kind of moment. But at least he was cold. At least something was going on in his life, right? Or you have the hot over here, the people that are on fire, wanting to do something, wanting to make a difference, living to make a change and help others. And God's saying it's like, there's cold and there's hot, but then there's these people that are lukewarm that have done nothing with your life. And that's why I don't understand when we are a generation of saying YOLO, but then like we do nothing, because it is 100% truth. We don't say that anymore. Maybe it's because everyone's dead. Did you guys hear that one before I know it? What if? But hear me out. Like, such a generation of opportunity, this apathy is what is consuming us to the core. Let's go to another verse. It says here, Zephaniah, so we see there's consequences. God is against it. He says, at that time I searched Jerusalem with lamps, and I will punish the men who are complacent, those who say in their hearts, the Lord will not do good, nor will he do ill. Their goods shall be plundered, and their houses laid waste. Though they build houses, they shall not inhabit them. Though they have planted vineyards, they will not drink wine for them. So God is looking to those who are complacent, have apathy. He says, I will not put up with it. Next verse. We see here it says, do not be slothful in zeal, but fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. Romans 12:11. Again, it is counter to so many things in our generation. To be fervent, to care, to have purpose. Let's move to the last one here. And you guys know this, James 4:17. So whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for him it is sin. We're still in the intro a little bit. We're going to get into a passage that we're going to go through a little bit later. But before we do that, I just want you to think. Look at where we're at, because this is how it applies. I'm going to go a little history lesson on you. The Empire of Rome, and you guys can correct me more a little after. The Empire of Rome, it lasted, how many of you guys, it lasted a really long time, right? It was like tons from the beginning, but then you got from the Greco-Roman to then the Roman just kind of empire that took over all of it to then, it spread over a huge amount of time and a vast amount of area of the known world at that time. Am I right about that, this Roman Empire? When we look at the Roman Empire and how it crumbled, what was that huge empire that defeated them? Who was the great commander? Who were these? Do you know what it really was? Yeah, there were some the Nordic people that were given problems and stuff like that from the north and all that, but that was not the reason Rome fell. Rome fell because of such an empire, such a huge structure that has everything, the lavishness, that all of a sudden complacency, what does it starts to fuse, it starts to, because you are the best, since you are the best, there is an apathy, a lackadaisicalness within it, and at the core, its own empire consumed and destroyed itself from the inside out, right? It was just rotting from the inside out. Before I transition into this paragraph, this is the huge concern that I have. Look where we are sitting right now. Look at this place. If you want to back it up even more, we're at Cottonwood, this huge, what I would call an empire of kind of a church compared to where I come from, right? Like the first church that I was in, I think like 10 churches could fit in just this area. This is an empire that we have. We have seen people before us sacrifice and do great things to be able to build, to be able to unite, to be able to connect and have all these things, right? But with our generation, as we are sitting inside such empires, what destroys us is the apathy, the complacency, because of what we've been given or how we've been set up. Does that make sense? Just as the Roman Empire crumbled internally, Dallas is in serious trouble when it comes to the next generations, because generations before had some huge concern into building in these churches and into organizing such things. But as followers, as our generations come on, if we are apathetic to what is happening, to the people around us, to our neighbors, right? To the people sitting to our left and right. As we are apathetic, the disease starts amongst us and crumbles this empire. That's why looking at this chain, Satan uses this chain, I think, beyond any other chain when it comes to our community, our environment, where we are at in society. He makes it that there is no alarm. He makes it that there is no need, so there is no step into action. So I want to, from now here on, let's go to Exodus chapter 3. There's a bunch of verses that we're going to cover and all that, and if I start reading up there, I lose my place. So if you want to with me, go to Exodus chapter 3, find it on your cell phone, find it on your Bible. We're going to go through 3 parts here. I don't know where I'm at in my 40 minutes. Exodus chapter 3. Trying. Exodus chapter 3, this is with Moses, right? And this is Moses on Exodus chapter 3. This is the burning bush. So to give you a background of all that's going on. So Moses you can divide his life up into 3 parts. You guys know that? 40, 40, and 40. So 120 years old. So the first 40, he lived in Egypt as a prince for 40 years. You got that? The second 40, he lived in the wilderness as a goat herder, basically. And the next 40 years, he lived as the leader of Israel, bringing the children of Israel out of Egypt. You got that? So 40, 80, 120. Exodus chapter 3 is the end of the second 40. He was a prince for 40 years. For 40 years, he was as a goat herder in the wilderness with his father-in-law, Jethro and all that. And at the end of 40 years, he didn't know this timeline. He didn't know it was 40-40. But at the end of this point, we pick up on Exodus chapter 3, verse 1. It says, "Now Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian, and he led his flock to the west side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God." Let's just pause right there, because we said a lot, but I want to say it one more time. "Now Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian, and he led his flock to the west side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God." I want to hit the first thing that we see when it comes to apathy. How do I become apathetic? Am I saying that word right? It bothers me a couple of times I say it. How do we have this apathy in our life? The counter to that I say here from verse 1 is, what is your vision? How does apathy start? It's from losing your vision of God and seeing what God is doing in your life. That's the first thing. So the first start I want to put here on this vision is, what is your vision? If we look at Moses' life at this point, imagine it. He had 40 years he was as a prince, and 40 years he's here in a wilderness. If he looks just as a vision of those 40 years, what is he thinking? He's thinking, my life is over. He's thinking, my life has no point. I used to be something great. I used to be something fantastic. I used to have the whole world in my hands, right? And now there is nothing. And because sometimes in our lives, right, we see that there's this momentum, there's things going, you're a part of a great group, and all this is happening, and we get to a point in our lives where maybe we just feel left out. We feel left alone. We feel like God has forgotten us. And I'm telling you, and I'm asking you, what is your vision? Because sometimes we need to pick up that vision a little higher and see what God is doing in our lives, right? Because as we look now, we see Moses, he was being trained as a prince of Egypt to be able to lead people. And 40 years he was being humbled and taught by God, as well as being in the wilderness to be prepped for the children of Israel. So I ask you, what is your vision? When you have lost apathy, when there is just nothing, when there is no effort or desire to push closer to God, where is your vision? First, I see, are you looking at just the right now? And the second part is, are you looking to God? The biggest way to explain this I have in my life, I get apathetic when God is not working in my life. But God is not working in my life when I'm not looking towards Him. The best way I show this is like when I before Panama, this is a straight Panama shout out. Sometimes I get so busy. I'm like in that rut right now. So many things are happening in my life. So many things I have to do, right? I have so many priorities. I have so many tasks. I have so many things at hand. And I'm just running 100 miles an hour looking at what I have to do to just survive. And I'm like, where is God at this moment? And then when we go off to Panama, all of a sudden priorities completely change. And it's no longer am I worrying about certain deadlines. No longer am I worried about these comforts or relationships as much. And all of a sudden, it's a timeout from my life in Central America with people that need help. And just that help, being with them and seeing God work just completely changes my heart and my heart's desire. So if there is a draw in your life right now, if you feel like there's a lagging, if you feel like there is a disconnect from you and God, what is your vision? What are you looking at? Does that make sense? So in your life, are you focusing on just a narrow part? But as well in your life, are you looking to God and see what He's doing? Or are we off on our own desires? Are we off on our own looks? Are we off on our own needs and not seeing what God is doing? And that is the first part here. Moses could have totally missed it. He could have just been small-minded, focused on the wilderness, and that would have been it his whole life. But let's continue on. Verse 2, it says, "And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of the midst of the bush. He looked, and behold, the bush was burning, yet it was not consumed. And Moses said, I will turn aside to see this great sight while the bush is burning." Verse 4, let's jump to it. It says, "When the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called to him out of the bush, 'Moses, Moses.' And he said, 'Here I am.' Then he said, 'Do not come near. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground.' And he said, 'I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob.' And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God." This is a big moment. At first I say, what is your vision? To this I say, what is your burning bush? I'll explain to this. We need to be focused and we need to be looking on God. We need to see the big picture of what God is doing in our lives, right? But when I say, what is your burning bush? This is the moment. This is the focus in Moses' life that set him on a path that changed the rest of his life. As you look here in verse 7, there is a huge need that is taking place. And it says in verse 7, "Then the Lord said, I have surely sent the affliction of my people who are in Egypt, and they have heard their cry because of their taskmasters. I know of their sufferings. And I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of the land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites and Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. And now behold, the cry of the people of Israel has come to me. I have also seen the oppression with which the Egyptians oppress them. Come, I will send to you a Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt." Just focus on me real fast. If you haven't gotten anything so far, I apologize, but this is really the meat of the message. His burning bush. What is your moment that defined your cause in your life? There was something in Moses' life that caught his attention. He went and followed after it, and there he saw a need. And what was it? It was his people, the children of Israel, being oppressed, afflicted. They were being enslaved by another country, and they were crying out to God that they might be freed. Do you see that? See that need? Something caught his attention. There was a huge need. And then God showed him that Moses, being used by God, could be that difference. In apathy in our lives, it's because there is no direction, there is no cause, and there is no purpose. We see here in Moses' life, this is what is so vital, where he becomes not just a goat herder, but becomes the leader of the children of Israel, because there was something that had caught his attention. There was a huge need, and then he was used by God to fill that need. What is your moment? What is that passion? What is that desire that is in your life? There's so many throughout history, right, that have done so many instrumental things. I think of Mr. Rakes, right? Who's that guy? I have no idea. This simple guy, right? He was just outside on his steps. And as he was outside on his steps on a Sunday, he saw a bunch of kids running around, and he says, that's a need. There's a bunch of kids running around doing whatever, and there's no guidance and all that. The cause, maybe God can allow me to start a Sunday school, and that's Sunday school, right? put into all efforts in the revival that happened because of Billy Rakes and being able to create the Sunday school. There was something that caught his attention, right? Seeing kids running around. He saw the need in how they were misguided and not being directed by mentors, and he was able to make that difference. So many people in our lives, so many people in history, that's how it is. There is something that grabs their attention. There is a need that is brought before them, and then they see how God can deliver and help use them in that need. I mean, that's, in my life, the most instrumental moment was 100% by accident. As I came down to Dallas 4 years ago, coming up on 5 years ago, something like that. As I came down here, I had desires and plans of starting a church with some people or getting a couple other things going. But this church just caught my attention. Someone told me about Cottonwood Creeks. So I came in here, there was just an interest. And as I came in here, that's where I saw the need between Cottonwood and Christ Fellowship and First McKinney and a couple other churches that I visited at. I saw all of a sudden the need of, there's huge churches, there's tons of people, there's tons of things going on, but the need of young adult ministry. Where are young adults? Where are young professionals? Where are college kids? And I had no answer. I just saw a huge need. I just saw that there was a hole with something that was going on in this area. And it was just a simple, well, maybe God can use me to do something small in some way to help out. There was an interest, you seeing it? There was a need, seeing where that was, and then there was a step in taking a trust that God would use us. And that's pivotal at this point in our lives as we're saying these chains here. And now what I'm saying to you is, I don't think every one of your needs is the same need that I have of having a young adult ministry and growing something. But the great thing about Elevate is it is that platform. So as you have that need that you see in your life, say it's it is the local missions. As Ashley says, here's the Samaritan Inn. This is a need, and this is where help is needed. As she comes and is connected to Elevate, then we are able to go after that need, and God can use us to fulfill that need within Elevate. Does that make sense? As someone else says, this is a popular one these days, right? Sex trafficking. And they see the need of the sex trafficking and all that is going on in this area, right? There is a huge need. You can be that change. Wow, I sounded like a president at that moment. That was weird. God can use you, right? And it's by seeing that need, allowing God to use you in that, and to plug to Elevate with others that are here to be able to make that need, that difference. Does that make sense? It's not that we all have the same plan. Of course, it's exactly opposite. But as we come together, we see something attracts us. We see that need. And then believing that God can work in our lives to make that difference. This is where I want to jump to. So you see that? You see the vision that he has to see that God is in control of his whole life. Sees the burning bush, the need, and how God can work in his life. But continue on, because Moses is not a perfect person, we see here in verse 13. He comes across all the troubles that we do. So after God says all this greatness of how there is such a need and he wants to use Moses to free his people, we look at verse 13 and Moses says, Then Moses said to God, If I come to the people of Israel and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, what should I say? Well, what's his name? And then look at me, because we're going to go through these whole chapters. You know this passage. This is the passage where God says, I am the God I am, right? The whole hair on the back of your neck, and you got real scared for a second. I am the God I am. I am. And he gives the answer. So Moses says a question. Yeah, but who is sending me? Who is the answer? The God I am. Moses isn't done though yet. In chapter 4, verse 1, if you go there. And after God probably says the most powerful paragraph ever about himself, then Moses answered, but you see how he's already doing that just like us? He says, but behold, they will not believe me or listen to my voice, for they will say, the Lord did not appear to you. And the Lord says what? The Lord again, he says, I am the answer. If they don't believe you, put your hand inside your cloak and pull it out. It'll be leprosy. Do it again and it'll be clean. If they don't believe you again, then just grab your stick, throw it on the ground, and it'll be a snake. Pick it up by the tail, it'll be your staff again, right? And he says, and if they still don't believe you, pour the Nile water down on dry ground, and it will be blood. So the answer, he says, is the first answer is, I am the answer. The second answer is, my power is the answer. Verse 10, Moses still isn't done yet. He says, but Moses said to the Lord in chapter 4, verse 10, "Oh, my Lord, I am not eloquent, either in the past or since you have spoken to my servant, but I am slow of speech and tongue." And God again gives an answer. And you know what his answer is? It's him. He says, who has made your mouth? Is it not me? Will I not be with you? Moses still, he's not even done yet. I love this one. He goes back at the end of verse 13. He just says, oh, my Lord, please send someone else. The answers have been all answered. And he says, oh, please send someone else. And God says, he gets a little angry with him. I don't know how God gets angry at responses when he knows the response before it's going to happen. But maybe it's just because he's got to teach us something. Did you think of that? It just messes with my mind. Messes with your mind too. He says, you know what? I have made you brother. Your brother can go with you. I say this because this is important in our lives. As we get this momentum, the apatheticness that happens in my life, right? And I finally see that burning bush. It catches my attention. I see that need. I see where there is something lacking, and I see how God can use me to make that difference. Do you know what Satan does at that moment? He sends every stinking dart your way to try to get you, to trip you up, to make you stop, to make you quit and fall back to that apathetic kind of life of just being wishy-washy, just going with the flow. That's what Satan does here. And that's why these questions are asked, because when we start going, all right, I'm going to follow you, God, but what do I say? What do I do? Can I tell you the answer goes back to the first chapter 3, as we said there, our vision. The answer goes back as things get hard, as Satan throws those darts, as we know. The answer is what? Going back to that vision. Because this is what happens. When we are ready to start small, we're looking to start 4 small groups here soon. I'm excited about this. But as we start small groups, you know what's going to happen? As leaders, your life is going to get busier. And this happens. This isn't even funny. School's going to get harder. Your boss is going to get on you. Someone might get sick. Someone might die in your family. These things are all real. Hardships happen, and there's no excuses about it. But the answer is, as we go bigger, we see that God is with us. When I look at my Bible study and say, I'm going to start a Bible study, and then I get hit with a huge program, or I get hit with a huge task for my job, you know what? I can't do it, and I'm done. But as we zoom out, and we see, you know this story, the God who helped Moses through the 10 plagues, through taking his people from Pharaoh and through the Red Sea, that same God, through those unsurmountable tasks, impossible things, helped Moses go through that as we have the same vision. Yes, school's going to get harder. Work is going to get worse. The loads are going to get more. There are going to be sicknesses. There are going to be times of pain. There is going to be something that I'm not even explaining. It's going to come up. And the only answer is God. Are you feeling me? Because in our apathetic lives, 99%, as it gets hard, we have good intentions. We see a vision, we have a need, and I want to go to it, but it gets hard. Only one person showed up to my Bible study. Jeremiah, for 40 years, had no one show up. You feeling me? There's always going to be a hardship. But the answer is God, and He puts that in every answer. God knew exactly what He was doing. He wasn't even answering this to Moses. He was answering it to you, right? But I'm nobody. God says, but I'm everything. He says, but no one will listen to me. God says, everyone will listen to me. He says to it, but I can't even speak well. He says, I am the one who has made you exactly the way you are. And as you have that big picture, when you see that there is a need in this life, and when you find out that God has built you and made you exactly the way you are to be that difference, there is no apathy anymore. There is no fear, going back to last week, in case I'll fail, because that's on God. That's not on you. Jeremiah didn't fail after those 40 years, right? He was faithful and he did everything God wanted. There was no failure in that because of God. God changes this apathy. God changes this fear of what if I try? What if I strive and nothing happens? It is God God is able to do what he wants. So are you feeling me? Are you understanding what I'm saying? I can't give you the answer for your next trial. I can't say, it's not fair. You did. You tried to start something. You tried to start a service project. You tried to feed the homeless, and then all of a sudden the bread ran out. I don't have an answer for you. All I can tell you is those answers, those things will always come, and God is that answer. God is that answer, and God is that difference from having that life. I'm just closing with this thought. This is the truth that I've found. Going on mission trips so much, coming back here, and it's so unique because as we go out there, this spiritual warfare is so real. I mean, daily we are praying and daily we see answers. Daily we see differences in, like, we see Satan attacking and then we see God providing. And we continually see just this spiritual warfare of God versus Satan versus the world versus what's going on. And seeing how God is providing as we come here. Can I tell you, I believe Satan, this is the biggest attack. It's this apathy. Why is there no spiritual warfare or visual spiritual warfare going on? It's because Satan doesn't even want us to know he exists. That's where his tactic is at. South America, he is freaking them out. He is witch doctors. He's got demons doing crazy things because it is active and down there. You see what I'm saying? Here, there is nothing. Why is Satan not messing with you? Because Satan doesn't want to be known. Satan wants everyone to continue in this wishy-washy, just kind of Christianity. And this is the change. We set ourselves up for it. As I've explained a couple times, and I really want to hit home this thought. Because the church has seen apathy, we try to do everything we can to help from these programs, from these just again, youth ministry. Show up to D Now and we will do everything for you. It's amazing. Show up to this Wednesday night or this Sunday and we're going to, and all of a sudden in this apathy, this culture, we're just wanting to kind of show up and be a part of something by existing in it. And God is saying you can be so much more than that. This church doesn't continue on just by us showing up. It's by taking steps and following after God. So I ask you, where is your vision? Just to recap, where is your vision? Do you see what God is doing in your life? Are you burdened because you're just looking at this part of your life and not seeing the big picture, what God has in store for you? Or have you taken from circumstances, from results of what's going on, taken your eyes off of just what God is doing and put it on yourself? Second step, have you seen your burning bush? What has caught your attention? What is the need that is out there? And I'm sure there are some that I've not even heard of, the creativeness between us all. What is your need? Is it to unite believers? Is it to help the suffering? Is it to take care of the children, or the widows, or to teach the doctrine? What is that need? How is God calling you to that? I'm just going to pray in a second up here, and we're going to have a song, but the simple question is just that, as I talked about, the burning bush. I really want us to think about what is the need that is out there that God has put on your heart. What ministry, what sacrifice, what is going on that you could be that change, that cause, that God could use you to make that difference? Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, in such a world full of complacency, and in a world of just such comfort, in a society where everything is just almost on a platter handed out, Lord, it's hard to have this desire, this drive to push for something more, to be that difference, to not just accept what is going on, but to realize that we have this God This God who has gone before with such people who have made revivals, who have built ministries, who have reached people groups, who have done so much. You are that same God and wanting to do that through us. I pray, help us to find that need. Help us to find that cause. Help us to find just where we have a place that you can use us to make that difference. Lord, even if it is just step one, help us to get excited about what God is doing. We need that fire. May you fan that flame in our hearts. May we not grow cold and become apathetic, Lord, but may we push after you. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.